Alright, everybody, welcome to another week of the Safely Extreme podcast. This is for the week of... Hold on one second, my microphone is looking very weird.
It's for the week of your microphone looking weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with... OBS just had another lovely update. Am I coming in alright on OBS? For those of you watching this, am I sounding alright on your end?
You sound fine on my side.
I wonder if it's just this OBS mixer. Yeah, they've added all kinds of weird features. That's always great.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, well, I will just let it go then.
Dislike those updates.
Alright, always the joy of doing an update right before it updates right before the stream started. Let's see here.
So hello Forward Facing Games / Board Fan, and hello Rat Stella. Is it strange having two chats now? Hello Alex. One from my stream and one from yours.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it going to confuse too many people? We'll see.
What was that?
I don't know. There was a kid yelling outside my window. Oh yeah, there's a lot of... I'm sure we'll hear some dogs barking at some point.
That kid is now YouTube famous.
There we go. Alright, so... And this is for the week of October 4th. It must be October and Horror Month because I had a disturbing nightmare last night that gave me an idea for a discussion about horror at some point.
I mean, you're not writing a book or anything on that.
No, definitely not. But, as always, I am Josh Blaser, and you can find me on Twitter at GWBlaser. And joining me is my co-host, indie game developer, Sharky. How you doing?
I'm, Sharky. You can find me at Nexus Games LLC 1, and you can also find me on Discord. All the links to both mine and Josh's social media, Discords, all that stuff is down in the description of both his stream and my stream, and both of our recorded versions.
So, as I said a minute ago, we are officially in October. The fall has finally set in, and that means we're going to be playing some horror games for this month. We'll have to see what are some really good ones. And if people have suggestions, let me know in the comments.
Can we hire that kid that was screaming outside your window to repeatedly scream outside your window, during those streams?
For jump scare purposes?
Yeah.
I don't know. That may be late for him. We'll see. But definitely, as always, things going on and topics to discuss. So, to begin with, for game news, I guess anything that stood out for you this week?
There was some things. I'm not recalling any of it right now.
Yeah, I'm not seeing too much. Last week was all the crazy news that we saw.
Yeah, last week was pretty crazy. I mean, this week is crazy in a different way. It's crazy with politics.
Let's see.
But, I mean, there's some personal news for me. It's like, yesterday was my dev chat and, did a lot of really, talked about a lot of cool stuff in there. Doing, putting out, went from like no content on YouTube at all to now making 3+ videos a week.
You gotta get up to at least 5. You gotta get good at YouTubing.
Well, if I can get things ready for the indie survival guide, that'll be one more week. And then I also want to do a sort of review series kind of thing where I play other developers' game and go over them and help them out, with feedback and everything. And, if I get that out, then it would be 5. If I could get that on a weekly basis. And then I would add, then if I can get devlog started, that would be 6. So, there's 3 more kind of working on coming down the lines.
Yep, and I'm trying to stick to at least 5, just because there's so much that goes into setting these things up. I'm going to be posting the discussion I had with Tomo probably tomorrow, the 30XX interview on Tuesday, and then going with some of the indie spotlights I've gotten up. So sound wise, I've got a few more of those panels to hook up. I've been feeling lousy these last few days, so I need to find a day that I can do it, and hopefully it doesn't bother anybody with the smell of that phone on the walls.
Yeah, you got to get good at putting foam up on the wall.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Mojo.
And today's topic that we're going to do today is definitely a Safeway Extreme one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. So, one news I guess kind of stood out is that developers of a GTFO, that was the kind of like, I'm not sure how to describe it, it was a co-op shooter horror-ish kind of game. It's from one of the developers on Payday 2. They got an investment from Tencent. And of course, people are shouting doom and gloom already.
Yeah, well, that is kind of how that tends to go.
And then weird news for there's been this whole minor whatever they call it non-controversy. I think that's the buzz term for Spider-Man, the one from Insomniac, and that they're replacing the mocap model for Spider-Man, the PS4 version versus the PS5 version. Not quite
That
sure.
is certainly non-controversy news or whatever you say.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one, Manor. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else like really like standing out news-wise. I guess the only thing I guess that was kind of interesting for me was we played that Woken game on stream earlier this week, and just like how many red flags we see in that?
A lot. I mean, I wasn't even playing. I was like, "There's a red flag. There's a red flag. There's a red flag."
And yeah, like
so many.
maybe that kid outside is texting you.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. He couldn't yell outside my window, so he had to text me.
Yeah, like Woken, like again, like we've spent so many casts talking about just like how fickle the market is, and like when Woken came out, nobody could shut up about that game. People were making videos about left and right. Oh, is this the new Diablo killer? This is the new Diablo killer. Diablo is dead, and Woken killed it, and so on and so forth. And what we found is a game that is not worth $40.
Well, what Woken did is they didn't kill another game. They just planted a garden full of red flags, and they grew out a lot of red flags out of there. And then they probably should have killed their own game, but somehow it lived.
Mm-hmm.
With all those red flags and all that cost.
Yeah. And somebody said they're supposed to be working on there's going to be another major patch or update, and I'm seeing nothing of the sort on their news page.
Yeah, so even if they are, they're definitely not promoting it in the way they should be.
Mm-hmm. And
which is also a red flag.
Oh yes. And like we've said, you don't really want to copy the No Man's Sky model of releasing a game without anything that you promise and then making it better 2 years later.
Yeah. And I mean, No Man's Sky honestly deserved to die for that, the whole entire company.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm honestly surprised that it didn't. And I think that's something in this industry that we can't support, kind of thing. Like, and mind you, like it's easy for me to say that on games like Call of Duty, because I had no interest in those games in the first place. It's easy for me to not support those games. But like No Man's Sky, that is a game that I almost pre-ordered, kind of thing, and I did research into it before it came out, and I looked and looked, and the only thing I could find was the same exact gameplay trailer, and it's right before the release. I was like, something's going on here. This doesn't seem right. I'm not going to pre-order it. And then it pre-ordered, then it came out, and to the crap show it did, and it's like, yeah, good thing I did my research because I knew something was up before it came out, and just held off and everything. But I really wanted to play that game. And, I still want to play that game, but I will not buy it. I will not support it. Maybe if they make a good next game that I am interested in, maybe I will support that. Probably not. But if they make a third game after that I'm interested in, I will definitely support that, as long as it doesn't seem to be a scam again. So like there's no way I'm buying No Man's Sky. And just because we can't support that kind of thing in our industry.
Yep, and it's just very weird again about what games blow up like that. Again, people are still fawning over that Among Us game that we still have to point out came out 2 years ago and just utterly flopped.
And the thing about I've heard several people some people in my Discord that absolutely hate the game, that haven't played it and everything, and I haven't played it myself, but like I see it, and I see a legitimate good game, not one that's aesthetically pleasing, which is probably the reason why it died, one of the main reasons anyway. But I think it, looking at it, I think it's a good game. It's not a great game or anything. It's just a fun multiplayer. It's kind of like Ultimate Chicken Horse, something fun to play multiplayer night, and never touch it again besides on multiplayer nights. Kind of thing. Because I never touch Ultimate Chicken Horse on any other night except for that night. But like when we play it, I enjoy it. Kind of thing, and I think it would be a good multiplayer game night, and I'm intending on buying it, kind of thing. But I know a lot of people don't like it because it's super popular and everything, and because it's spread everywhere. And I mean, like, I can't blame them for not wanting it shoved in their face all the time. But I think it's a good game overall. But again, it failed originally, and you developers out there cannot base your model off of that.
Nope.
Like, I mean, well, you can half base your model off of that. You need to, and by that, what I mean is plan for your first game to fail. Just don't plan for it to become a success 2 years later.
No.
Plan for it to fail and then stay a failure for the rest of its life.
Yeah. I will say, though, the developers did seem to have a wise plan in place, that they were working on a sequel. They'll probably have more in terms of marketing, more in terms of, building that brand up. If, things didn't, if they didn't get, roll, lucky sevens with people picking the game up a month or so ago. So there's really no need to work on a sequel. You don't need to fragment a fan base that just blew up.
Yeah. So do you think do you know if they're going to put that as an update or something for the original? Or
let's see. Yeah, now the one thing that I'm seeing a little bit of a red flag is I'm reading the notes, the little news piece they put out about canceling Among Us 2. And they said that one of the issues with Among Us 1 is that it was so outdated and not really built to support adding new content. So it seems like they're going to have to kind of fit a square peg into a round hole in order to make this work, as opposed to just building a second game with a much better or a easier to work with engine.
Not necessarily, because if they're already working on the second one, they can just release the second one under the first one's name as an update, kind of thing.
Yeah,
As
well,
long as it is, you know, basically the same game, but with more content or something like that. You know, an update, basically.
yeah, and you can definitely see like some of the stuff they're talking about that they want to add. Like, I hate to be mean, but it's stuff that probably should have been the very first version of this game, such as having a friend system or an account system, servers being fixed, and it's great that they're working on it now. But like we've said, Among Us is not the indie game to follow if you're trying to succeed in the space.
Yeah, neither is Fall Guys
Or Dwarf Fortress.
or Stardew Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, any game that's really popular, that's not the game to follow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you also don't want to follow a game that's failed horribly. You want to kind of follow a amalgamation of all the successful games that did not absolutely blow up,
Mm-hmm. And
and
again,
also follow your own path at the same time.
yeah. Yeah, what are your thoughts on Spelunky 2? I'm kind of lukewarm on it at the moment because I've been playing so much Hades.
I'm very down on it because it it doesn't look like Splunky 2. I mean, it looks like a Splunky 1 with update. It looks like a Splunky 1 with update, you know, just Splunky 1 with a, you know, few new maps, updated, you know, random generation and items, a few new items kind of thing. I don't think they did anything to the art at all.
It's a
Other
little
than maybe,
bit fancier, but not a lot.
yeah, and, you know, it looks like a 10-year-old game.
Mm.
And
The
and it plays like
procedural.
one too for the most part, from what I can see, because it plays pretty much just like the original.
My big problem is with the proc gen, or the procedural generation of it. It does not seem to be as varied as the first Spelunky. I think what they've done is that they kind of build all the variants into the biomes themselves, but left the biomes relatively plain.
Well, perfection from 10 years ago is not perfection now.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can't just take a 10-year-old game and make it work today?
No,
Ah.
not unless you're Dwarf Fortress.
Let's see. Some news I'm hearing from the YouTuber side is that people are getting Xbox Series, whatever the newest one is. Microsoft is sending them out to influencers. So, Shark, since you're now a big famous YouTuber, did you get a new Xbox?
Absolutely. I absolutely did with all 21 subscribers I have at the moment. Who's going to be number 22?
There we go. Speaking about subscribers, I think I just hit 6,600 subscribers, or whatever our next 100 count is. I need to think of something special to do when I hit 7K.
24-hour stream.
Mm-hmm. 24 hours of Among Us, right?
There you go.
But I think with that, there's nothing else like interesting news-wise. Let's get to some weird games because we do have a very interesting topic to get to. We're somewhat on time today. We prepared things last night in terms of what our topic was. Cut out a lot of the time today.
I prepared things
Mm-hmm.
last night, and Josh did all his stuff this morning. And that's the reason why we weren't exactly on time, as usual.
All right. Let's see. Why is this not... Uh-oh. Looks like we have ourselves a little bit of a problem here.
I think I got a problem too. Is yours not showing Chrome?
No, it is not.
Yeah, that's the same thing mine's doing.
Oh, goody.
So it broke both of ours.
Always a good sign. Wait.
I clicked on it and it's showing that as red.
Alright, well that fixes one thing. Let's see if I can...
That is not...
I had to change the window.
Yeah, same here.
Okay. Now let me just make sure that it actually works when I swap. Yep. Good old bugs right at the beginning again. Alright. So everything looks good here. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's take a look at some of the games that we picked out for this week. So this first one from Shark, this one that I would also pick as well. This is the sequel to Professor Lupo and His Horrible Pets. This was a game that we looked at, I think this was like a few weeks ago. It's from the developers of, there's that game about color, with like we were controlling a shade. Neo Rumbra? It was like one of those very weird artistic games.
But can you taste the color?
Can you taste a rainbow?
Oh, absolutely.
And did you pick this one because it has an underwater theme?
One of many reasons, but yes.
I don't see any robotic sharks, though.
What about non-robotic sharks?
Mm-mm.
Because I'm not a robotic shark. I'm just a superpowered shark.
There you go. That's voice acting. Ooh, synth soundtrack. So,
and
yeah.
It's got synth.
So I did like Professor Lupo and His Horrible Pets. I put in for a press key. I don't think I ever got it. But we'll see if we get anything for this one. I hope it does well for a developer, because they do put a lot into their games.
Yeah, I don't remember the other ones, but this one definitely seems pretty interesting.
So here we go. In terms of copying the big name game, we have a solo developer copying Super Meat Boy. Mega Vegman.
Is he really copying that, or is he copying Mega Man?
Well, it says inspired by the gameplay of Super Meat Boy. Second question, why am I controlling a frog with a bandana over his head?
Because that's Mega Vegman.
Ooh, over 140 levels.
That's a red flag.
What about user-intuitive UI UX with friendly controller navigation? I mean, like the note here about the controller not working. Remember, kids, on your store page, don't put mentions of major bugs.
Yeah, it's got friendly controller navigation,
That doesn't
but
work.
your controller doesn't work unless you mess it.
And I like, is this the UI that he's talking about?
Probably.
That's also really good screenshots that indicates what your game is.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's some red flags there, certainly.
Oh yes.
Quite a many of them. And that's a very short features list, and a couple of them shouldn't even be in the features list.
Yeah. Oh, poor devs. Poor devs. So this next one is Nina? Short top-down action puzzler.
And the main reason why I picked this one is because if you scroll down just a hair, you'll see this big monstrosity.
Yeah, this thing.
Yeah, don't do that. Note to make everybody make a note to yourself. Do not do this to your any of your pages, whether it's Steam, Keymailer, websites, whatever it is. Do not do this kind of monstrosity.
Looks just okay. At
Yeah.
least, but still not seeing anything like amazing.
Yeah, I'm seeing some red flags in there, certainly. And, lacking on aesthetics.
Yeah. I'm going to put in 4 just to see. I have so many games, I have to confirm it now on Keymailer.
And you'll play it for about an hour just to confirm that it's bad.
So this is another one that Shark chose. I believe you chose it because it's anime, right?
No, I chose it because of the red flags. It looks quite well polished, but if you look at every screenshot, all of them look rather stiff and one-on-one battles, which does not look like this is fitting for like this type of game.
I like that there's a private room for stuff that will get me demod if we mentioned it.
Yeah.
The other game looks like Chromasia. Better, but I'm still feeling pressure with the season changing. Thanks, David.
No, he's saying it makes Chromasia look like it's in HD. And Chromasia, my game, the word of the day, failed, my last game, rather, failed because it was not aesthetically pleasing enough. But yes, it did make Chromasia look really good by comparison.
So this next one is Member the Alamo, which I'm pretty sure we've seen on Keymailer before.
Do you remember the Alamo?
Remember just like this. You are fighting the Mexican army 100-1. It's a serialized video game. I don't know what that means. You mean episodic?
I think what he means by that is they keep on putting them out.
Okay. Once again, developers are trying to create... You're going to need, when Neon Continuum comes out, you're going to have to invent a new term for deck building CCG.
Yeah. I'm going to call it let's see here, a neon... It's a neon game. Here we go. It's a neon game.
This looks like it's in VR to me. At least some of these... What the hell is this?
I think it's just first person, and that's how they did it.
You like these character models?
Oh, they are absolutely perfection. Who would not want to look at this all day, every day? Just hold that up and, print that out, put it on your poster. Here, I can't even make it bigger.
Apparently there's skits, too.
Does that mean cutscenes?
Maybe. It could be a new name for that. Possibly, wearing the gloves. Alright, so this next one is Beat 'em Up. So now it's a game that's just named after the genre.
Yeah, I mean, like, this game just totally sums up the entire genre. In a way that is all at the same time, because it is so generic, it fits all of them, hence the generic name.
I like this screenshot here. It looks like we have a prisoner, a masked wrestler, and I don't know who this guy is. And he's like in his default I got hit pose.
Yeah. I mean, this game is super generic.
Wait, that's a crash test dummy.
Both in the images and in the name. So if you take all the generic stuff and you put it together with the most generic name, call it a genre, then you get this game, the genre. So now when I have to say, Now we have to make a clarification anytime we talk about it, because now we're going to be like, you want to play a beat 'em up? Which beat 'em up? Do you want to play beat 'em up?
Mm-hmm.
Which beat 'em up? Do you want to play beat 'em up? Which
And
beat 'em up? Do you want to play?
I like this description too. The whole game is designed in a story mode. This kung fu game is advanced type of fighting games. Beat 'em up is in wait for you. It's waiting for us outside.
It's in wait for us.
Yeah, I was getting to that one, Pony. I like the descriptions. The amazing classical hard fighter and action game. Realistic street fighting sound. Just one sound. One touch roadkill gameplay controls. Anyone know what that means?
It means with one touch, you can kill all the roadkill all over the ground, and you will be in for the most amazing roadkill supper you've ever had.
Anyone knows that third one? Multiple levels and scenarios in this adventure games. This is an adventure games. And then you experience street fighting in a relaxing action game. Isn't relaxing action safely extreme?
It would be if it was true.
No, it does not give you country of origin, but something tells me this was not written in English first.
Yeah, this is definitely not a... It's made by Glitch Studio.
And it's available in Xbox.
So since this was made by Glitch Studios, do you think there's a whole bunch of glitches in here?
Maybe.
Probably.
Alright, so this next one, Slime Pandemic Tower Defense.
Now, I actually know the developer of this game.
Mm-hmm.
He is on Tim Ruswick's Discord channel. I've talked to him a few times over
there. I don't think I like this aesthetic all that much. What about you?
Yeah, it's kind of dark.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad looking aesthetic. It's just, I think you need a different art palette, color palette for it. I think it would have looked a lot better with a different art palette.
And I like the marketing blog. You can customize, you can progress, you can experiment. I guess here's the big issue, and again, something that we talk about with a lot of these tower defense games. Why should I play this game? I'm not seeing what's new in these thumbnails.
Yeah, I'm not either, but, I think that tower defense is one of those games that you can sort of get by without doing something new. Just because there's such a niche, but there's not very many good ones out there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's reason that they can possibly get away with that. But that one tower defense that I suggested to you, there's pretty much nothing new in that. They just did a dang good job at all of it, at all your stereotypical, and I played that thing for all the hours.
So this next one, speaking about weird tower defense, we have Cybernetica Fallen City. It's a continuation of the game Cybernetica, which I've never heard of. What about you?
I've absolutely heard of that just now.
Now you have to defend the city. What were we doing in the first game? Cybernetica's
maybe
a tower
attacking the city in the first one.
Okay. You are going to destroy the enemies with the help of buildings before they cross the base. You will have to cope with 85 waves of enemies. Each wave of enemies is procedurally generated. That is a kind of a red flag in a tower defense game.
Yep. Very red flag there.
Mm-hmm.
Because you really don't want to randomly generate your enemies. Not unless you have very specific stuff in there kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be like, the enemies aren't actually randomly generated, or they're procedurally generated in such a way that that, basically you break them down into tiers. Like this is tier 1 enemies, this is tier 2, this is tier 3 kind of thing, and tier 4. Which when you do that, either you're going to end up with a very short game, or you're going to need a butt ton of enemies.
Yeah.
Because tower defense usually, is usually able to get away with so few enemies because it's not procedurally generated, because it's static, and it's almost like a puzzle kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so you would have to add so many more enemies to be able to compensate for that. And maybe they have, but from the screenshots, I'm not seeing it. All I'm seeing is red flags.
So this next one, I apparently put in a key request for. I think someone recommended this one a few months ago, but it is coming out very soon. This is Biomass. And for one thing, the pixel art looks really impressive in these cutscenes.
Yeah, it does.
Not so much in the general gameplay. This looks... I'm not seeing too much there. But they are describing with a very fast-paced combat, dynamic boss fights. So it looks like there's a lot that's in this game.
Certainly an interesting one to check out.
Like this little GIF here at the end looks very impressive. You can actually see like the reflection in the water.
Yeah, that's actually not very hard to pull off, but it is really good.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the thing with pixel art, is like simple is often better when it comes to pixel art.
Yeah, I haven't seen Hidden Faces either, so curious to see if they will pull that off. Well, and we'll see if we get a press key for it.
Yep, I put one in for myself.
Alright, so this is one that I picked. It's called You Can Do It?
Question mark?
Help the chicken climb many obstacles and meet friends. Your finger abilities help you clear the game. You don't use fingers for other video games, right?
Not your finger abilities. You use your fingers, but not your finger abilities. You got to use your finger abilities for this.
I use my nose to be Bloodborne.
So you're instead of doing a blind run, you're going to do a nose run?
There you go. Wait, I like this marking point. Sometimes you can get angry while playing this game. Feel the annoyance starting from scratch, but the genre of this game is casual. It's an angry casual game.
You're going to be casually angry.
There we go.
Who wants to be casually angry? Is that Safeway Extreme?
Maybe. Your fingers aren't high level enough to use ultimates later.
Yeah.
It's getting over it for casual fans. Because casual people love getting over it.
Isn't that the original Getting Over It? Getting Over It. There we go, funny.
Getting over it, yeah. So this one, I have some interest in this. This is The Solitaire Conspiracy. It's a story-driven spy thriller combined with solitaire. And you're apparently wielding the cards. And I guess cards is an acronym. Like, do you have the heart of the CARDS?
I mean, I have the heart of the CRDS.
There we go. So the reason why I'm interested in this one is that it's from Bithell Games, who I interviewed one of the developers last year, or I think earlier this year, when they did the John Wick Hex game.
Oh.
And it's also the team who did Thomas Was Alone. So, definitely interested in this one. No microtransactions. Let's see. So, it is a short game. But I guess this is not meant to be played for a lot of time. I'm just wondering how short is a short game.
Yeah.
Is it 3 minutes?
It's probably about 7.
Looks interesting. Definitely interested to check it out.
And the aesthetics are there too.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to have the heart of the cards. Oh, I'm sorry, heart of the CRDS.
But the great thing is I actually make the heart of the CRDS
Nice.
because I'm making that in my current game.
So this
I can manufacture all I want.
this next one I chose because I'm not sure what the heck is going on here. It's called Animal Rescuer. This is the prologue. It's apparently a free-to-play indie RPG. So, here's my question. Is this game just about you... Is the game about you rescuing animals? Or is this just like the sub-game that this prologue is built on?
I mean, it doesn't look like anything to rescue animals.
Oh, look, you
Because
can pet the dog.
I only see like one screenshot with actual animals in it.
Yeah. And if you're rescuing animals, why do you need to fight bosses and use swords?
I mean, this seems more like the Witcher kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I know, endorsed by PETA. Like, rescue animals. I don't see any animals in this screenshot. I see a boat.
Does it say that, or is that just Pony?
I think that's Pony. Here, rescue animals with your giant sword. Now I'm gonna get PETA to come down with me.
And me.
Mm-hmm. I am not seeing any animals.
Not really. For
Here
a
you're
game
rowing a boat.
that's supposedly all about animals and rescue them, there's not very many animals in here.
Maybe that's why you need to rescue them.
And they're all like extinct. So, or maybe they're all living out in the forest, and you have to rescue them from living, and you have to send them all to heaven.
Uh-oh.
That's the reason why you need your sword. That's where the boss fights come in.
Uh-oh. So this next one, Eichenfeld. This sounds very familiar to me. Did this game come out before?
I have no idea. I've never heard of it.
So this is a classic style RPG. Looks like you have a timing based combat. Where did I just see that? Great battles. Turn based style RPG. Here, use timing mechanics. I'm not loving the pixel art in this one. What about you?
It's very low res pixel art. It's like about 16 by 16 or something along that lines. It's very small. It might be 30 by 32 by 32, but I doubt it, kind of thing. That's quite small. But yeah, I mean, like for the size it is, I mean, I don't think they could have done any better. Well, not much better anyway. They could have technically done better, but anybody can do better. But with enough iteration. But I think for the size they did a good job. But I think the size is really the limitation because the size and the detail of the characters, because like in the size you really can't show much detail, so they have that limitation, but they have like these really detailed characters, so that causes things to kind of get lost, kind of thing. So like they either needed to go with less detailed characters or increase the size so they could actually show the detail in such a way that doesn't make everything kind of cluttered, So, it's either, mess with the design or go with a bigger size, and it would have looked a lot better, worlds better, if they would have done one of those two things.
And to Wendrick's question, how you making knows what one said, yeah, it's all about figuring out what your core gameplay loop is and taking it from there. But yeah, too big to get into a discussion about that now. Let's see. And we got two more. So this is Airy Sky Castle. I thought we played one of the Airy games. Or something similar. Or was that Air?
I think that was Air.
Yeah. I wonder if it's from the same developer. explore. So this is a minimalistic flying game. You're collecting feathers, supposed to be about relaxation.
I thought it was supposed to be about boredom.
It looks cute.
And the aesthetics are there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not amazing, but they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's low poly. It's a low poly art style.
Mm-hmm. And then I chose this last one just like on what the heck this game is. This is The Adventures of Chris. I don't know who.
Rename that.
What was that?
They need to rename that.
To what?
The Adventures of Josh.
There we go. That's what I was going to say. I need somebody to make me a beat 'em up game.
I mean, you gotta beat 'em up game.
Mm-hmm.
Just now.
Yeah. Oh, I like the difficulty settings. Ridiculous easy for players who prefer Never Die, and hard for no reason for crazy people. I think this game's attacking me.
Or maybe it's endorsing you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can talk to them about getting the sponsorship.
Yeah. Coldest Simulator is such a strange game in terms of like what it wants to be. Like it got like worse for me the more I played that one for some reason. Like I felt like they just made it harder without making it more interesting. Some of the animation isn't too bad on the character model.
Yeah.
Maybe like, if I play the game, I can convince the developer to do a Josh 'em up.
There you go. We all need a Josh 'em up, right?
Mm-hmm. Streets of Josh. There we go.
Streets of Josh.
Well, I'll put in for it. We'll see.
What about the Josh inning?
There we go. What is the Joshening? Is that the new M. Night Shyamalan movie?
It's the new M. Night Joshua movie. Josh and Slash.
There we go. Perfect. A Josh humor.
Actually, I think it would be Josh and Cheese.
There we go. Alright, but I think with that, let's get to our main topic. And we've shown a lot of simple-looking games. We've played many simple-looking titles on stream. But for our discussion, we need to discuss why simple is not always, or most likely not, simple to do. Because there are plenty of consumers out there who they take a look at a casual game of any kind, even a game that doesn't, or even a game that is on the challenging side but looks simple, and they'll say, oh, this is a stupid game, it's dumbed down, it's meant, for my grandmother, comments like that. And
yeah, I never got any comments like that on my last game.
No. But the lesson for today is very simple. It is very hard, or is on the harder side, to do simple looking, or to do a game that looks simple, or just a simple to play game.
But I have to, you said this was very simple, but is it very simple?
No, it's very complicated. And that's why it's called the Save the Extreme podcast, people.
Because it's simple, but complicated. It's simplicated.
There we go. Perfect.
It's Safely Extreme, and, that's exactly what Safely Extreme means,
Mm-hmm. And to John's point, I tried Rebel Galaxy Outlaw. I'm just not a space sim guy, so I kind of bounce off it. But I did keep the game in kind of supporting the developer, because I did like the first Rebel Galaxy. Me too, I'm playing a lot of Steam demos, as we all know. But
yeah, you have?
No.
I mean, like one?
Pony is experiencing my own horror, having to play 20 to 30 different demos. He's getting the light version of that. Yeah, I know. Well, again, welcome to my world. Welcome to the Josh 'em up. Which for anyone who's like skipped the weird game section, they'll have no idea what we're talking about, which is perfect.
But you had that what last night?
Mm-hmm.
How many games did you get through last night?
About 10, I think, on stream.
I thought it was like 7 or 8, but yeah, there was quite a few.
Mm-hmm. That Russian-looking game, that is something right there.
Which one was that?
The one where the guy kept screaming, Kato! Or whatever his name was. And the floating head following me around, speaking in Russian.
You're talking about the really chaotic looking
Yeah.
one? Yeah, I remember that one now. I didn't know he was shouting his name.
Mm-hmm. But back on topic, when we did our talk about difficulty in video games and saying that a hard game, it's very easy to make a hard game because it's just adjusting stats. And a lot of people feel that difficulty is, again, a metric for greatness. And the same thing goes for complexity. There are those who think that if a game is hard to learn, it's very difficult to figure out, surely it must be this amazing art piece that is the greatest thing ever, right?
Sure, just take Mario, take all of its tutorials out of it, make it really hard to play, and it'll be the most amazing game ever.
Mm-hmm.
But, not the it'll be far better than the one that actually taught us how to play and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Dark Souls and you take every bit of usability, every bit of tutorial, every bit of everything out of that. That'll be a freaking god tier game because like the current Dark Souls is freaking horrible,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just not hard enough.
We tried. You remember that demo, that mech game that I played, that literally had no onboarding whatsoever to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a good game there, but I can guarantee you that most people are going to bounce off of it faster than you can say Mech Warrior.
Mech Warrior.
There you go. Well, we just lost 100 people right there.
Yep.
And like I said in my post, like John brought up about challenges hard and fair, that I think you need to make your game fair but tough, not tough but fair.
Yeah. I mean,
like a Ford's comment in your chat. There we go.
Yeah.
Again, Shark, made a compilation of all the Shark hating Dark Souls, and once a Shark blows up, just release that video out there.
Or just release it now, and then I'll blow up.
Yeah. Yep, and then Non-Guns is a really good example. That it's a game that makes use of symbology that makes no sense. And we couldn't even figure out how to leave the game, which is always a good sign when you can't even figure out how to do the menus to leave your own game.
Yeah. It's like it's like Sword Art Online. Once you log in, you don't ever log out.
You gotta do that for Neon Continuum.
Yeah, absolutely. I will absolutely do that.
Mm-hmm.
Once you log into Neon Continuum, you're stuck in there forever.
Unless you buy 50 loot boxes or 50 card packages.
Yeah.
No, 50 card packages gives you the key that lets you leave, but then when you go back in the game, you need to purchase another key.
Yeah.
Perfect. There you go. I just did all your monetization for you.
But when you go in the second time, you got to buy 60.
Oh yeah, it goes up each time.
Yeah, exactly.
But casual or very easy or simple looking games, it's very hard to do this, as we've said. And part of the reason is that you have to design your game in a way that you can explain it perfectly to somebody without ever requiring them to leave the game. And we have seen many, many games that have required Let's Plays, video guides. I mean, even some of the games that I've played that I've made like minor guides for, I'm still getting people watching them. My Neo 1 guide is like one of my most watched videos on this channel. And Neo wasn't that hard of a game to get into, but it had some very opaque subsystems to it.
Yeah. And maybe I'll have to make one of those for final upgrade since now that's the one because like that was the game I streamed last week and everything, and going to stream it this Tuesday, I think it is, again on my channel. And that one is, there's a great game in there. There's definitely a great game in there, but it is so hard to understand anything. And like I walked you through a lot of the basics kind of thing, and that took what, an hour?
Yeah.
You could probably now go back and do that same exact thing if you learned it kind of thing in about 5-10 minutes kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then that's just the starting of learning. You still don't know hardly anything about the game yet.
Mm-hmm. But a big point about that, again, is that onboarding. There you go, Pony. Exactly. That's how I got famous, right through Neo. But onboarding is such a necessary tool. And it's the point of it, or the goal, is to demystify a lot about playing your game. But as I'm sure every developer watching this can agree, tutorial design is very easy to do, right?
Oh, absolutely. There is no effort at all in explaining literally everything about your game.
It's the very first thing you should do when you make your game. Before you even build your game, you can make the tutorial.
Exactly. It will never outdate with anything that you ever add. There will be no issues at all. It'll be just flawless, perfect, and no kind of issues.
The very first one you made 5 years ago can still be used to this day.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Besiege did, right?
Oh, yes. Thank you for bringing that up.
That's a really great tutorial in there. It's, it's like it teaches you things from like 5-10 years ago that has absolutely nothing to do with the game now.
Yeah. And again, there's a issue when it comes to making your game easy to play, because like Foreign actually brought up a really good point there, that if you get rid of too much, or if you break things down too far, you're essentially playing the game for the player. But if you don't go far enough, and the player is not even figuring out what the rules or the mechanics are, they're just going to get very frustrated with your game. Neo 2, I felt, was a lot more punishing than the first one, as a little bit of a tangent there.
Yeah, and going to the word of the day, Chromasia, my last game, we had a lot of really good onboarding in that, and really taught the players how to play that game. We didn't do everything perfect kind of thing. There was definitely some things we missed, but we got to the point where, people were playing through the first 2 levels. Keep in mind that they have to get to the 5th level to, a little bit past the 5th level to even finish the tutorial kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They would, YouTubers would just play the first 2 levels and everything and just say that the game was basic and forgettable.
Yeah.
And that they want to complain about it, but there wasn't anything they could actually complain about.
Yeah, and as an interesting point, the developer of that kind of like indie Castlevania game finally got back to me about a key for their game, and they mentioned in the Twitter message that a lot of people played the game and they didn't realize, they skipped the tutorial, and they didn't know you could just hold down a button to aim in a direction. And they were saying, this game is horrible, it doesn't play right, because they missed that tutorial message.
Mm. Yeah, don't make your tutorial skippable. The second you make your tutorial skippable is the second you failed.
Mm-hmm.
If people are complaining about your tutorials, don't make them skippable. Make them better.
Yep. And it's very tough. Yes, Mega Man.
It's like if a person was complaining about a sprained ankle, don't cut their ankle off. Just put a splint in there, fix it, and fix their dang ankle. Don't don't just chop it off. That's what putting a skip button in there is that's chopping it off.
And you have to be able to show somebody, yeah, I think to like Ford's point, that it should be skippable once you've done it. But when you're first trying to learn a game, you need to remember that people aren't going to come to your game with perfect knowledge. Especially if you're making a series, and let's say your last game was like 5-6 years ago, most people aren't going to remember the intricate details of that first game.
I mean, it should be skippable the second time they go through it.
Mm-hmm.
But they should not be able to skip it the first time.
Yep.
No matter how experienced they are with the genre or anything, because unless your game is exactly a cookie cutter of another game, which is a recipe for failure, you need a different. You need there will be something different, and you will need to teach a player that.
Yep.
So no matter how much experience they are, they still need to go through it at least once.
And there are still developers out there who release even platformers, and they won't even tell you, what the jump button is when you start playing. They assume that, the player knows what the A button is. But again, you can't always rely on somebody playing your game who's already played previous examples of it.
Yeah. But, as for tutorial design, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, which we've already covered that. But, here's the kind of TLDR kind of thing. Is the best kind of onboarding, the best kind of tutorials is one that the players don't even realize there's a tutorial. Streamlined into the game, and that's what I did in my last game. Part of my tutorial is actually in the story. There's this line in the story where, the character Rocky is like, I'll take on all of the guys. And the other two reply, no, I think you should take on the types that you have advantage for. You should stick to fighting scissors kind of thing, because that's what you're best at. And that taught the players exactly that there's legitimate rock, paper, scissors mechanics in the game. It's not just a cosmetic thing, because I had players not even realizing that it was just they thought it was just cosmetic. Hence why that tutorial got added in to that. And I tied that in, not only the tutorial message, but it's also this comedy joke, which, I didn't tell it right to actually be funny, but, in the game, it is actually funny, and people laugh at that, So it was good story, tutorial, and a joke all at the same time. It was a trifecta right there. And that is good tutorial design, and of course you can't put it all in the story. You can't put it, but like if you're doing a streamlined tutorial kind of thing, that you're going to hide it in multiple places, but you're going to do it in different ways. And the key to tutorials is keeping it very simple. You don't want to overwhelm the players with too much information at the same time. You don't want to overwhelm them with too much text on the screen at the same time. And you just want to really keep it to, clean so that they'll understand. And, Pony, Chromasia isn't for sale anymore, sadly.
And part of the problem, though, is that a lot of the games that can make use of a integrated or organic tutorial are more on the action side of things. Breath of the Wild, for instance, a whole tutorial section is that opening, floating island, or that giant, island attached to like the pillar at the start. And
that's why you can't leave that area until you complete it.
Yeah.
You can't skip the tutorial.
But if we're talking about something like a tower defense game, a 4X title, grand strategy, you don't really have that luxury. And this is where being able to streamline and look at UI UX design is very important. Because like we said with the non-guns example, you can just put in all these crazy symbols and not explain anything at all, or you can try and put something in there that makes sense to the player.
and you have to guide a player, and you're probably not going to get it right the first time. It takes iteration to get lots of iteration, usually, to get a tutorial right and learning bit by bit. And the first Mario, a lot of people look at the first Mario and be like, "There's no tutorial in there." There absolutely is.
It's called Stage 1-1.
Yeah. Do you want to tell them about the tutorial in Stage 1-1?
So with Stage 1-1, the game is set up in a way that explains all of Mario's mechanics and the rules simply by going through it. So the first time you have to make a jump, they've set up, well, I think one of the more crazy, and they've set up a Kaizo block that said that if a new player is going to jump over a Goomba, they're going to hit it and then realize there's Kaizo blocks in this game. Before you get to pit jumping, you have to jump over like little walls. So the game, in a way, it trains you and escalates the mechanics very quickly so that the player knows what they need to do, and they can only progress if they can do basically the skill floor of Mario 1.
Yeah, you skipped the very first tutorial, though. The very first tutorial is they start you on the edge of the screen coming out of the castle, and you have the entire right side of the screen open to you and nothing open to you to the left. So, it's that, like, you want to go to the right kind of thing right there at the beginning. And, you go to the right because it's the only way open to you kind of thing. And you like, well, how do I go to the right? Well, let's just hit the right arrow. And it works. And, all kinds of tutorial design in there. And, despite people thinking there's no tutorial in there, like I said, the best tutorials out there are ones that people don't even realize are in there. But that does not mean make a game with no tutorial, because that would be very, very bad. Because no tutorial is no tutorial. A tutorial that's in there that you never see is really amazing.
And this is why, again, that when we say that, when a developer says my game is difficult to learn or complicated, that is not a good marketing point for your game these days.
That's a red flag. That's several red flags, actually, rolled into one.
Yep. And I've said this in my post I just made about difficulty, that it's not good design today to only cater to the extreme, super hardcore fans of the genre. You need to design your game so that people who are just learning or interested in it have a way of breaking in.
Because, like, if you're not letting other people break in, then you just, cutting off how many copies of the game you can sell. Because the less you're allowing them to break in, the less they're going to get in, which means the less sales you're going to get and the more refunds you're going to get, because even the ones that already know how to get in kind of thing may not fully know how to get in and will abandon the game. They may be able to get, 50%, 25% in, and then they just get lost because not only did you not put no tutorial in there, but you made confusing UI elements, you did all this other stuff, and even experienced people can't make it all the way through, and they refund the game.
Yeah. But of course, people will say your game is great, don't change a damn thing.
Yeah, the ignorant people. The fanboys. And, fanboys is pretty much the picture shot of ignorance when it comes to games. It's like, oh, that abusive, horrible game that, is horrible to play, horrible onboarding, horrible monetization, horrible, everything. It's the best game ever. And if you dare, say anything against it, I'm going to, stalk you in real life and pull a gun on you. Perfect line of logic right there of a fanboy.
Yeah. I know Darksiders 3 did receive some patches after it came out. I don't know what they did. because I suffered through the game in its 1.0 and beat it like in a week. And
I got one of the Darksiders game. I can't remember which one, but I couldn't get into it because like it just felt like Assassin's Creed. Just not Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed without the Assassin's Creed story, which would be every Assassin's Creed after Black Flag, which is the last one I wanted to play.
and when you're trying to build your game around, if you're trying to add depth to your game, you have to build it around being easy to get into. And part of that is understanding where people get stuck with learning your game. Shark mentioned Final Upgrade. And the tutorial itself just does not do a good job of not explaining anything in a logical order, and B, not explaining why you need to do this stuff.
And not explaining hardly anything at all because like
mm-hmm.
I started that tutorial and I couldn't even make it all the way through. I had to quit about a third of the way through, and I was like, well, I'm just going to go play the actual game and see if I can learn it that way. And then I got farther, but I got stuck, and then I went back to the tutorial, and this time I was able to make it 2/3 of the way through the tutorial before I got stuck. And then I went back to the full game, got stuck there, and then I went back to the tutorial, finally able to complete the tutorial, and then went back to the full game and got stuck again. And, multiple times of getting stuck and ended up joining their Discord, asking a whole bunch of questions, getting, this answer, that answer kind of thing, and getting farther. And then I get farther and I get stuck. And then I ask more questions, get more answers, get a little bit farther, get stuck kind of thing. And, my last stream of that, had the lead community manager of that game actually come and watch my stream and answer questions while I was streaming it.
Mm-hmm.
But like that, like it's an amazing game, but it's not good UI, it's not good UX kind of thing, but they are actively making that better by the day because they're doing like daily patches, sometimes like 2 or 3 patches a day. Like it's insane. And a lot of the things they're doing is addressing that kind of thing, and that is amazing kind of thing.
Yeah.
Could have technically done it beforehand, but he's actually a solo developer too. And it's really rare to see a game of that quality, even with all the issues that he has, from a solo developer. And it's really awesome.
And this is why when you're designing a tutorial, telling the player what to do in a tutorial is not a good tutorial. As in, your click here, double click on this, move over here. At one point in that Final Upgrade tutorial, it tells you press escape twice. Why can't I just press escape one time? Like, and you have to be very much aware of what lessons you are giving the player. And when you just tell them, when you just order them to do something, they're usually not drawing the line between, what am I clicking on and what's happening on screen.
Yeah, there's that too. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. And for my thumbnail, I of course chose Plants vs. Zombies. I think Shark chose it as well. And Plants vs. Zombies is one of the quintessential examples of this. As yours fan has talked about many times, with spending months iterating the onboarding, the UI, and the tutorial for Plants vs. Zombies so that anyone could play that game, even his mother.
Yeah, and Plants vs. Zombies is one of the best examples we have out there of amazing tutorials and onboarding and like that UX experience. Like they did so much stuff on that. It was amazing kind of thing. They really, really nailed that one. The first one. That right. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the only one he had a hand in, right?
Yeah, he left, I think, before or right around Plants vs. Zombies 2.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to get this onboarding right. And again, this is kind of like our point about this topic, that when you do it right, it seems like you did nothing at all. And that's unfortunately what makes it so difficult to talk about. That people will say, "Oh, Mario's a casual game. They just let you jump into the game and 1, 2, 3, that's it." It took a lot of work to get Mario to a point where it has really good onboarding.
Mm-hmm. And it's a thankless job, what it is.
Yep.
And matter of fact, it's almost a negative job because I people insulted my game because of it.
Yep. And to Pony's comment about fighting games, yes, many fighting games just tell you, but they're not showing you what it means to play this game. The Mortal Kombat 11 tutorial did get close to that, but it still really wasn't connecting with me. I think that's just I'm not good with fighting games.
Well, I think the MK11 certainly did a better job, but I think Soul Calibur did a really good job too.
Mm-hmm.
All of the Soul Caliburs, and because they made all the moves make sense, kind of thing, in your hands, kind of thing. Where like with Mortal Kombat, all the moves are basically just DDR.
Mm-hmm.
It memorizes DDR move, and you can do this move, kind of thing. And where like in Soul Calibur, what you have is this button's a kick button. Mm-hmm. This button's the sword button. This button's the punch button, kind of thing. And then if you push front and sword, you're going to do a front slash, kind of thing. If you do front and kick, you're going to do a front kick. If you do front and punch, and you're going to do a front punch. But if you do up in any of those, then you're going to do an upper slash, uppercut, whatever kind of thing. And it was very intuitive in its controls and how it played, which is one reason why that is my favorite fighting game by all means, kind of thing. It's Soul Calibur because the control design, the UI UX design of the controls is not innovative, intuitive. That's the word, intuitive, to where it becomes easier to learn. And that's the thing is, with onboarding, it's not all about just teaching them how to play. It's about making things intuitive enough that some things you don't have to teach.
Yeah.
Because they are so intuitive that people get it without actually being taught it. But you are teaching it to them by making it intuitive.
Yeah, but one of the things you do have to watch out for is if you do have something unique or esoteric in your game, something that is not covered in other games. So, for instance, like with Factorio, the whole idea of building logistics chains to begin with. Like, you have to onboard, and they had to eventually do that. They upgraded the tutorial. I think like this was like a year or so ago. They changed like the scenarios of a tutorial one, and the reason is that if there is something that is unique to your game that the player is not going to have experience in another game doing, you have to explain that to them.
Yeah, I know with our last game, Chromasia, the word of the day. What I had to do with it was. We were able to streamline all of our tutorials except for the last one. The last one where it taught you about level scaling, I had to actually, explain that in, really big terms. I put some story with it, kind of thing, to make it, and some comedy and everything. But it was the most in your face of all the tutorials because there was no other way to do that and actually have players understand it that I could figure out anyway. Because, basically there's this little slider bar that basically each notch you slide it up to, it adds 5 levels to all enemies in whatever map you're going into. So if it's a level 1 map and you crank it up 20 notches, now those enemies are going to be level 101. which is a vast more challenge than 1. Which we also did another thing about putting limitation about how much you could turn it up based off of how much progress you make. As you made it to more and more unseen checkpoints, basically, you would unlock higher and higher level scales. The final one being when you beat the final boss on the default kind of thing. That's when because like before you beat them, I think you're locked to taking it by 10 notches, which is 50 levels. After you beat that and you clear the game in the normal sense, that's when you unlock the full bar and able to go up to 100. Adding 100 levels, which the whole point is that I tried to make all the levels seamless kind of thing, seamless progression kind of thing, so that when basically the final boss is basically a level 100 boss. So when you clear that and you go to New Game Plus, you go back into the new game and everything, you now have the full bar, and you go into the first level, you crank it all the way up. And now you're level 101 on the first map. So it's a natural progression. And then you can go all the way up to level 200, which is the max level of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the super secret, well, not the super secret, the ultimate ending of the game is getting all the regular endings and then beating the final boss on max level scale. And that's where you'll get your 100% ending from.
And again, you had to explain that system because it's not something most people are really going to play. Even people who play Disgaea may not have known about the whole level scale system that the game allows you to do with it.
Yeah, it's based off of Disgaea, but it's quite different than Disgaea's system. But it is quite similar in a lot of ways too. But it is different. So, like, experienced Disgaea players may not have realized that, like you said.
Mm-hmm. And you have to be able to explain that to somebody. Exactly, putting the Fate Tactics UI. That the player needs to understand what it means to play the game. And if they can't explain these unique rules to them, then everything else doesn't really matter. Another good example was the game Godhood. That was the game that I streamed from Abbey Games. And the problem that game runs into is that so much of your decision making is disconnected from the actual playing of the game. And this is where you get that issue of complicated versus depth, or complexity versus depth. That it is a complicated game to figure out, but it's not that deep of an experience because you have so little control over it. So what ends up happening is that you're going to get frustrated. You'll probably look things up and go, oh, that's what I need to do, and then the game becomes easy. But it doesn't make it that enjoyable a game. Figuring out a game should not be hard. That's ultimately the major point for our talk today.
Yeah, and a lot of people, a lot of YouTubers definitely brought that against me, because they're like, oh, this is easy to learn. There's nothing to this game, kind of thing. It's like, no, there's a good bit. There's not as much as Disgaea, but pretty decently close, kind of thing. And it's the only part that we don't have a equivalent of is the Senate, the item world. And I think that's it. Mm-hmm. I mean, but we have the things that are in it itself.
Oh.
But
lost you for a second.
Uh-oh.
Alright, I think you're back. Hopefully.
Okay. Did anything I said come through?
A little bit. If you're saying something right now, I can't hear you.
No, I'm not.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Do I need to reset what I'm saying?
I think we got it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, and that's the big point for what Pony is saying, that you need to teach somebody. You don't tell somebody what your tools do. You tell them, what they are. What are your options? And then you let them, excuse me, you then let them experiment in that space. This is one of the reasons why Factorio, despite the complexity of that game, it's not as bad compared to something like Kerbal Space Program to learn. Because you are giving the player essentially the tools that they need and then just saying, go do something with it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, try something else. And because you're kind of building things up, step by step, one set of the chain to the next set of the chain, you can see almost one-to-one what is happening. It's very similar to why I found Infinite Factory to be the easiest of Zachtronics' games to learn.
I didn't know that one was a Zachtronic game.
Oh, it was, definitely. And thank you for the compliment, Kijo.
Yeah, thanks. And be sure to join both of our Discords and YouTube channels and all that stuff. Because we definitely talk about this stuff on our Discords for sure. We both
yes. And this topic will be our main one on my Discord after this stream is over.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like Infinite Factory, again, this is why I think ultimately this could be a big point. You want to make the player understand as close as you can, one-to-one, what their actions are and what's happening in the world. This is where a lot of strategy games tend to fail. Is that when you're having layers of systems, it's hard to sometimes know, okay, if I give this character the green sword, and it gives them 1.75 slashing proficiency, what does that actually mean? Does it make this character better? Does it make their weapon do more damage? It's that obscuring that is a major point of what we see in a lot of mobile-based games, where you have rows and rows of stats that have no explanation what they do, and then you have no idea why any of this is actually helping. I give my character the gun that has 30 buckshot bonus. What does that mean to her actual gun shooting stat?
Yeah. And, I've seen this many times. I've seen, somebody make a really, a game that's, even basic for game jam kind of thing. Just a basic platformer that only has basic jumping and everything, but they had not horrible artwork in there, but definitely nothing commercially viable kind of thing. Just passable kind of thing, I guess you would call it. Sub-commercial kind of thing. And they would have no onboarding, no UI design, no UX design. They would have no nothing and everything. And it made the game hard.
Yep.
Because there was no way to, it was very, very hard. And I seen a YouTuber, he got a YouTuber to cover it. And the YouTuber that had no idea what the hell he was doing, obviously, was praising the game for its difficulty. And it's like, oh, no. I mean, I could sit there and, if I didn't have to make the assets, if I just grabbed some assets, and I'm not a programmer, mind you, I could sit there and program a game that is better than that in about 15 minutes.
Do you remember there was that game that we played on stream one night? It was like this space sim meets Space Invaders meets rock, paper, scissors, and bunch of symbols. And the whole tutorial was like two characters just like rambling on about jokes and weird stuff. And then maybe like one blurb of, move your ship to the left, move your ship to the right.
I vaguely remember that.
That was just such a horrible way of designing that game. And again,
what they did, what that was, is they were streamlining the tutorial and they were streamlining it in such a way that it wasn't overwhelming the player, but they put it 100% into the story, and then they made the story so dry and so basic and so long, and it was horrible kind of thing. Like streamlining your tutorial is good, but you have to do that streamlining in a good way. Like don't just streamline it and put a whole bunch of boring text in there, because you know what? You're going to lose a player in that boring text. They're not going to pay attention to the rest of the tutorial and everything. It would honestly rather been hand-holdy for like for about 30, 40, 50 seconds than, that on and on, streamlined for what, 20 minutes or so? Wasn't it? That was horrible. But like, you want to avoid being hand-holdy too. But like, being hand-holdy is better than a streamlined thing that bores the player to death for 20 minutes. Because I'm pretty sure most players bounce off of it before they finish that tutorial cutscene, because that was just so. I don't even remember the game, but I remember that tutorial.
Toad Shambo. Oh yes. Ugh. Don't remind me of that one. Yep.
What was that one?
From Battletoads.
Oh yeah.
And Battletoads was probably a good example of going like too far away from having depth. That they just kind of, steamrolled all the fun out of what made the original games work, and tried to kind of, they broke what didn't need to be fixed, and they barely fixed what was broken to begin with.
And and most of those things, they broke it in a new way. On top of that, like the notorious what do you call it? Space cart?
Turbo tunnel.
Turbo tunnel, yeah. They made it a lot easier,
but they made it
They made it 24 times longer, and it was just this snore fest of going through it. And it's like, yeah, no. I think the original Battletoads is probably better than the remake. And the original has quite a lot of train wrecks in it.
And it's very difficult, again, to know that line of how. I guess this is a good question for you as well, Char. Like, what do you feel is that moment that you have it right? That it's simple enough that people are going to figure it out, but it's still kind of showing the depth that's going to be in these mechanics.
Well, one part of that's very, very easy. You have testers play your game, and when you bring in new testers and everything, they never ask you any questions, and they go all the way through the game kind of thing. And they never get stuck. They never have any problems and everything. At that point, they've learned it, kind of thing, because they made it all the way to the end of the game. What I did is with my, I called it the final testing kind of thing, which there was like 36 of those, but, what I did was I brought in people that were blind to the game. They were aware of the game, but that's all they were. They didn't know. They had never played it. They had never experienced any of the mechanics firsthand. They knew it was a tactical RPG, kind of thing. They knew what they would be on the store page, basically. They had store page knowledge, basically, and knowledge of me. And I would bring them in, and Tomo was one of them, and ask them to play through the entire game, or at least as far as they could get, and and if they had any issues, kind of thing, that's where I would go address it, kind of thing. Now then, that gets the knowing they learned it. That gets the you've taught the players kind of thing. but that doesn't get the whole, being sure they get the complexity of everything. And, because a lot of people did not get the complexity of Chromasia. And, I think part of that is that we streamlined it so much that, and a lot of the systems are there if you want them and not like mandatory. You don't have to go in there and mandatory go for the highest power. You can be like, oh, if I go with a high power character, then I'm going to be a lot stronger and I can configure all this other stuff and everything. And since it wasn't mandatory kind of thing, and it was things that it was important to the gameplay, but it wasn't mandatory. You could go through without it kind of thing. A lot of people skipped over it kind of thing. And I think that a lot of the other things was just that we had such simplified UI kind of thing through really amazing UX and UI design to where there was, we moved, where your normal tactical RPGs have like move, attack, defend, item, all this other stuff, magic attack, and we condensed that down. We didn't have an item system in there, so that one got thrown out. But we condensed the attack and magic attack into one button, and we could condense their two sub menus into that one button kind of thing. And then we also combined move in with that. So you move, attack, and special attack all with the same button. And then the other one, we got the defense that we also integrated the attack with, or the move with, rather. So it's move and defense kind of thing. And that was a really great design, but it really hid a lot of the complexity kind of thing, which was a good thing, but also a bad thing at the same time. Yeah. So, that's one of the reasons why in the next one, we're adding an item system in there to add more complexity and whatnot. That's also why in the next one, we're going to not just have the power system be so hidden and actually have a upgrade system where you can actually upgrade the power of your other characters and actually incorporate that into the tutorials and whatnot. Mm-hmm. That's why when, we get to a new place, when you unlock a new set of weapons in the shop, we're going to blink the shop button to get your attention to go into that shop and everything and check it out. That's also why, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a lot of your starting characters at level 10, rebalance it to where you get your skills, where right now you get your first skill at level 2. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking that I'm going to rebalance it to where you get your second skill at level 10 and have your main 3, Cyrocky and Violet, start at level 10 and have your 3 behind that start at level 9 so that they don't have that first skill, but the others do, and also start them off just a few XP from hitting level 10. So that they'll get level 10 in that battle, so that when they get to the next battle, they'll get that second move, as well as giving Cyrocky and Violet their own special move that is unique to them. Yeah. Just all these things that will just, more show the complexity that's in there. With the only thing I'm really adding is an item system.
Yeah.
And just a way to upgrade the power. It's not really adding thing. It's like a usability thing.
Mm-hmm. And like we said a few minutes ago, this is why these kind of discussions are it's the underappreciated, this is the unsung work that goes into game development. Because, like you said with Chromasia, that there are people who looked at a game and said, there's just, some casual mobile strategy game, where is the complexity in this game? But the problem is that they are conflating complexity with depth. Like you said with the other example of a developer, a game has no onboarding, so it must be a good game if it's hard to figure out.
Mm-hmm. And that's just not true.
Nope. And this is why you have to be really careful when you're listening to the fanboys and girls of a title in terms of what needs to be improved. Like we've
Oh yeah,
said before.
fanboys and fangirls absolutely are against onboarding.
Mm-hmm. That when we said before about feedback, somebody saying that your game is horrible and you should go die, that doesn't give you a lot of good value. Somebody who says your game is the best game ever, I would not change a damn thing, that also doesn't give you a lot of value.
I would also say that's probably worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're telling you that there's nothing wrong with your game.
Yeah. It's better to know that there's something wrong, but you don't know what it is, than, assume that everything is all good.
Mm-hmm.
But a better feedback would be, I hate this game. It's really horrible. There was no damn volume slider, so I couldn't, so it deafened me and I can't hear anymore for the next week. Thank you and goodbye. That's still bad feedback, but it's useful feedback because from that feedback you need to put a dang volume slider in your game.
Mm-hmm. Or how about that game was like to have volume slider, but no video controls?
Yeah.
That was just a weird one right there.
Yeah, usually it's the inverse.
Mm-hmm. Now the problem, like to Pony's comment about you need problems to solve, is that what are said problems? Because if the problem is how the hell does this game work, that's only going to appeal to a very few number of people.
Yeah, how does this game work? That's not just one problem. That's like 500 problems.
Mm-hmm.
If not more.
Yeah. And like you said, when you were showing Chromasia to people like Tomo and other testers, that if they can play the game and understand exactly what's going on, that is definitely a good step forward. But you also need to show to people who have never touched this genre before. And like we said, some people will look at that and say, oh, you're just dumbing down a game. But the point is that your game should be approachable to as many people as possible, even if they don't like that genre. Again, like with something like the George Fanning when he showed to his mother, like his mother didn't play video games before. She didn't know what a tower defense game was or what laning is. But she still could figure this out, and that's ultimately your goal. When you're trying to do this kind of onboarding and streamlining, you're not trying to convert somebody who's never played a video game before into the pro top esports player. You're trying to see, can they understand what is happening on screen? Can they look at a screenshot of your game or play and know, okay, I know what I'm doing? It's not a matter of liking or disliking. It's just a matter of understanding.
Yeah. And what you just said is exactly what I did with, when I was testing the word of the day, Chromasia. Because when I was testing it, I made a point of it to specifically go get at least one person that really loved tactical RPGs and was really into them, knew all about them, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it a point to get at least one person that absolutely hated the genre as a whole. And I got multiple of both kind of thing, and I got all kinds of people in between. And by the end of testing, all of them really loved the game. And that's a really good sign when you can have somebody that hates the genre really love your game in that genre kind of thing. Because that says that you have not mass market appeal, but a lot more appeal than what is in your niche of your genre kind of thing. It's expanding the niche kind of thing. And, there was a specific point behind that because I went and looked. I did my research and everything. I looked at tactical RPGs, which is what Chromasia is. And I looked at it, and I looked at all kinds of Steam reviews. I looked at all places all over the internet kind of thing of why people did not play tactical RPGs, why they would not play them kind of thing. And when I looked through all of them, I found this very, very common thread. I mean, this was not the only reason, but this was a reason in a vast majority of them, was it was too complicated. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't understand how to play. So it was boring and I quit. And it was like, well, that's just onboarding,
Yeah.
Let me do a tactical RPG and we are going to onboard the hell out of it and overcome this so that, that it could be less of a niche game. Sadly, the cosmetics and everything, the graphical aesthetics of the game really, kind of wrecked all that. But like, we're going to do a remake eventually and fix that problem, as well as some others like the item system and the other stuff I'm talking about to make up for all of that. Trying to kill everything that killed the game, basically, and everything that even hindered the game. And addressing all that stuff, and I think that it has a decent chance to do pretty well as long as we get marketing right and get everything right, because the game, even as it is, with all of its flaws and everything, keep in mind that it's not going to be flawless when I get done with it, with the remake, but it's going to be a lot less flawed than what it is. But where it stands now on Steam, it has a 100% positive review score. Keep in mind that it's no longer for sale. We only sold, I think it was like 130 copies. So it's a very limited, base there, but even at that, you got to consider that when you look at Steam games and everything, up until like 2019 when they changed things in the algorithm and everything, up until that point, which the game left the store in 2018, so none of that applied. But in 2018, what it would take would be, on average, it takes to get one review, it takes 50 people playing it. So you're going to have take 50 people playing it to get an emotional response enough out of a person that 1 out of 50 person is going to actually write a review for your game, because it was either good enough to promote that emotional response out of them, or bad enough to provoke it, kind of thing. And so, like, we had, I think it was like 17 reviews or something, which would be like, well, that's like 17 times 50. What is that? Like, that's like 1,600 copies or so. But we only sold 130. So, like, we were, way ahead of the curve out there. And then if you look at even finer, is 100 of those copies were bought by game collectors that never booted the game. So really, it was like 16 reviews out of 30. So like, we triggered 50% of the people who bought the game and played it to actually leave a review, and it was all positive, But there is no perfect game. It's just because it has a 100% review score doesn't make it a perfect game by any means. And I was definitely looking forward to not having a perfect review score by getting a lot more sales and a lot more reviews, but that didn't happen, sadly.
And like we said earlier with like the Among Us example, that just because a game blew up now doesn't make it the perfect, game of the year, multiplayer experience kind of thing. And to Ford's comment, like, again, like, the whole talk about unionizing and such in the industry, that's a major point, having, specialized groups. And
I don't think he's talking about unionizing, but just
more about, like, having, like, organizations and such. Yeah,
I think he's talking more mass networking.
Yeah, but a lot of people view testing as, how many people have said, testing is just the entry-level position. You move on to something else.
I mean, a lot of people do that, but like, I mean, testing, testing is this weird area kind of thing in game development. It's so important kind of thing, but you can also get it for free at the same time if you go to the right places. Like, that's exactly what early access is. People would actually know early access is when people pay to test your game. Mm-hmm. My bad. But you can find people to test your game for free, by joining your Discord and everything, because people want their hands on the game before it's done, kind of thing. They want to be able to give their feedback and shape the game and, get their own creative bits kind of thing in there. They want to get a thank you in the credits kind of thing, and I am definitely looking for testers at all points. So if anybody wants to test my games, go to my Discord. We test on there.
Yeah. And there is such that big, like we said earlier, the example, your game is horrible, your game is the most amazing thing ever made. That finding good play testers is very hard. Sometimes you get lucky just by kind of your fan base. This is where kind of fans do help to some extent. That somebody who's very knowledgeable on the genre you're making can rip apart your game from the inside out to figure out everything that's going on in it, and then relay that information to you.
Yep, exactly the reason why I wanted at least one person who really knew tactical RPGs on that testing team, as well as somebody who knew, basically nothing and hated the genre. And you want that spread because there are many reasons, like Josh said, being able to rip apart the game, because that one certainly did. He was certainly ripping it apart and complaining about certain parts, complaining about other parts. But in the end, there was one complaint that I never addressed of his, and that was that it was too easy.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, I had somebody on the lesser side that was saying it was too hard. And I was like, too easy and too hard? Does that mean we're just right? I think that means we're safely extreme.
Yep.
And here we are, safely extreme. The safely extreme is exactly where you want to be. Pretty much on everything related to game dev.
There we go. That should be the tag for these casts.
It pretty much is.
But we are hitting 2 hours. I think it'll probably be time to wrap things up shortly, because I think we're starting to kind of go around circles. So here are my final thoughts, and then I'll throw it to you, Shark. So, as we've said, making a game that looks simple is very different from making a game that is simple. And some of the very best games we've played in the last 10 years have all done things that make them very approachable. And there are elements, like we've said, that unfortunately most people aren't going to pick up, or they won't even understand it when they're doing it. Something as simple as having a sorting feature in an ARPG, having the game highlight, what's a good upgrade, what's an item that you need. These are things that, again, to the casual observer, they're just there. And like we've said with Chromasia and games like Plants vs. Zombies, that people will look at something that is simple, and they will often deride as saying it's, dumbed down. There's no good elements to this game. But the thing that we have learned over the last 10 years, and kind of with the growth of the market, is that people want to be able to get into a game. If they can't get into a title, they will never look at you or your game ever again. And once you've lost that person, they're gone. And while you can certainly say that a game that has, a very favored or a very hardened fan base may be good, again, the proof is in the sales numbers. So, to give you, again, that case in point, with something like La Mulana 2 and having so many hardened fans of that franchise, they only have 424 reviews on Steam. So, those 424 reviews, I'm sure those people really got into that game, but we always turn to this question of how many more people could enjoy La Mulana as a franchise if there was better onboarding, if there was better approachability.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that sales is directly related, but if you see that it's so praised and there's not very many sales, then yeah, I mean that's a definite sign kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also see one praised that doesn't have any signs like Chromasia, whatchamacallit, the other Sharks game.
Vision Software said, but
Vision Soft.
yeah. And to Pony's point, Ori and the Will of Wisp has over 33,000 reviews at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that game succeeded.
A little bit.
It's so ugly to look at, I know.
Yeah, it's like the ugliest game out there.
And this is one of the reasons why we praise Nintendo and Blizzard for their game designs, or Blizzard in the past, depending upon what's going on right now with them.
Mm-hmm.
That their games are very easy, they're very approachable. And it sounds, again, like people will look at a Nintendo game and think it's, some dumbed down game for kids. But when
that's all Nintendo is, right? Just dumbed down things for kids.
Mm-hmm. But what makes their games work is that they take that extra time and attention to make sure people can understand it. So that, again, there are people who will play a Mario game or a Smash Brothers or whatever, and they may never see the end of those games. I'm sure there are people who play Smash Brothers who never touch the online play or the competitive scene. But they still got something out of it. And that is your goal when you're trying to make your game approachable, when you're trying to make things simple to learn. You're not expecting 100% of your people to beat your game. Like, I don't think that will ever happen for any game, no matter how popular it is. But you want to prevent that drop-off rate from occurring as early as possible. Like, when we see games that, in the first hour go from, 100% people playing your game to 20% of people playing your game, that's a huge problem no matter what the quality of your game is.
Yeah. And I just realized on your UI, you have that, your camera resized the entire time. Anyway, so my wrap up would be that designing a game to be simple, you can do that to any game. How simple, it depends on the game. Mm-hmm. But you can, that makes it better. Despite what so many YouTubers want to say not, and because they're just ignorant to the fact. And that's not just me saying that because because it's true. It's the fact that they don't even realize why they're saying it, kind of thing. It's not because they're trying to mislead people or anything. It's because they don't understand. If you don't understand a thing, then you're of course not going to be able to represent a thing, 100%. Like I know a little bit of Japanese, but there's no way I could, say anything that, a paragraph that would be completely understood, kind of thing. Maybe somebody could actually figure out what I meant by that, but it's not going to come off, and I'm going to say something stupid and ignorant. I may be trying to ask where the bathroom is, and accidentally say something really weird, and be like, I don't know, can I eat your toilet? Kind of thing, or something. I don't know. But they would be able to figure it out probably from what I said, and then point me to the right direction. And then laugh about it afterwards, And we're not here to laugh about the creators that don't, know 100%. But like, the fact is we're just pointing out that as a developer, you have to understand that they don't understand, and when you design a game, you need to make sure that it's both easy for them to learn and there's enough complexity visible to them that they don't shrug it off and say, hey, there's nothing to this game. And, I nailed the first part of my last game, but I did not get the second part. And, people shrugged it off. And I learned that lesson the hard way, kind of thing. And, I still don't know 100% answer for that. So I can't even say, the changes I'm doing to Chromasia is going to actually 100% address that. Mm-hmm. I will have to do testing and everything and see how far we can get with that. And even still, that may not 100% address it, but I'm going to address it as much as I can in such a way that is good, kind of thing. And, that's pretty much the best I can do. I can, get feedback from Josh and, several other people who, I can probably get some feedback from Tim Ruswick and Tomo and many other people, kind of thing, people in the industry that know what they're doing, kind of thing, and see what they think on that. And, we may still not get there, but, every step closer we can get, the better it'll be.
Yep. And, I just also want to add something else about Ori 2. I checked this out, that according to the Steam stats for the game, over 50% of the people who play the game actually saw it all the way through to the end. And while that may not sound amazing, that is actually really incredible for a challenging platformer to retain 52% of its fan base all the way through to the end.
That is not just amazing. That may be a world record right there.
That is... maybe I would love to see the Nintendo stats, but we will probably never get that.
Yeah, and I hope to have stats that good on or better.
And I think
we're over 70% on Chromasia, the remake.
Mm-hmm. And again, this is the problem when we have this discussion, that what I just said, 52% of the people who play the game actually saw through the end. A lot of people are probably thinking to themselves, really? That's a point of excitement? 50%? But yeah, that is why a lot of the stuff that we talk about is very underrated. That most people who played Ori, again, don't understand the onboarding and the approachability that went into that game in terms of its design, its aesthetics, and its presentation. But to get a game to that level, a game that's so ugly, like we keep saying, is amazingly high praise for it.
Yeah. And the thing is Josh said it right there, and this is official. This is the most underrated podcast yet. So you guys need to tell all your friends about it.
Yeah.
Get people on both sides of this podcast, both Josh's side and my side. And get people knowing about it, get people understanding this stuff, and keep in mind that, while Josh and I have a lot of knowledge on game design and all these other topics, kind of thing, we far from know it all. We, there, and you can talk to anybody in the profession, people who have been doing it since olden days, and they far from know it all. Even if we took every game developer that was ever created, ever existed at this point, and we all combined our knowledge, we would still probably know less than, probably 50% of what's out there for game development. Probably not even 30%. There's so much knowledge out there that we don't even know about, that we still got to learn, kind of thing. And then even at that, there's knowledge that other developers know that we still don't know. And this is, a growing field. This is, basically where we're at in game dev is equivalent of where, TVs were back in the black and white days. We are in the black and white TV era of game development. And, I think through our podcast, we're trying to help at least the, few people who actually watch us get to that next stage, get to the, Technicolor stage of game development.
Yeah. As a very interesting point, apparently about 48% of the people who play Bloodstained 1 actually managed to beat that game.
Hmm.
I thought that would be a lower rating, to be honest.
Now you got me curious on my last game.
And just for the hell of it, I looked up Super Meat Boy, but unfortunately, there is no achievement for beating the game. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. The end. Okay, so according to this, only 6.3% of the people who play Super Meat Boy on Steam actually beat the game all the way through. Hmm. I kind of expected that to be higher at this point, to be honest.
Yeah, according to this, 7% of people completed the normal ending,
Mm-hmm.
and 7% of people got the normal bad ending. So like 14% of people basically beat the game in one way or another. And as for 100%ing it, I got 5.2% of people who 100%ed it, which is really hard when you go all the way up to level 200 to 100% it, and you've got to get all the endings and everything else. But to get to the normal ending, we got 7% for that.
Yep.
Which is and I think that's not exactly a low number. And that's the reason why 52% is god tier.
Yeah, that is amazing. Like I would imagine like Nintendo games would be up there, but again, Nintendo doesn't reveal stats.
Yeah,
But
Nintendo would definitely be up there.
yeah. But I think with that, let's wrap things up for our show. I think this went really well. So I hope everybody enjoyed things. If you are new again, be sure to check out the Discord, Patreon, all that link down below. You can follow me on Twitter at GWBicer. And we have daily videos and discussions on game design right here on the Game Wisdom channel.
Yep, and be sure to check out my YouTube channel if you haven't already. We got 3 videos coming out a week. One of them being this one, and but on my side with different UI and everything, different chat, and also I do my dev streams over there where we work on I'm trying to call it Project Try It Again, Neon Continuum, and my current game, and also do once a week game streams over there, and planning on adding more content. So follow me over there. Also join my Discord and whatnot, and come talk to me if you need to learn something. I'll see if I can teach it to you, or at least direct you to the to a direction that you can try to figure it out yourself.
Awesome. So, with that said, we will be back later tonight for some regular game streaming. And like I said, come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we are in science of games. Until next time, take care.